The party's airship landed at Lockton, the capital of Pietra. Graven, Epsilon, and Bullets were there to greet them. The party was led to the throne room of Marcia Underhill, Tsarina of Pietra. I have heard great things about you, heroes. You stole the Great Eagle from General Strongarm mid-flight. You blasted a hole in the Great Shark and sent Admiral Urim to the bottom of the sea. And, of course, you killed Emperor Gilderoy. The war isn't all good. Oddvon has begun attacking the border of Morios. The wolf and the ape are set to collide somewhere near Bubba Gump in the next few days. And, of course, there's the matter of the ancient god summoned by the Judgment Cult. I fear no god. Besides, I have my own great beast. It sits below the city, ready to be called upon when it is needed. There's more to war than great beasts. Yes, and Pietra is impenetrable. Mountains to the west, the great ravine to the east, the Fey Woods to the south. The Empire will not break in. What about the north? The north has our greatest defense. 5 towers, each armed with lightning ballistas that can shoot down any airship. My kind of tower. There's a reason Pietra was invaded last. Because we will not fall. So, geniuses of war, what do you suggest we do next? We avoid using the great beasts. Yeah, they're kind of walking war crimes. To be clear, this opinion is not universal. I like war crimes. It's more than that. When the great beasts collide, they rip tears in reality, portals to other planes. The last time you used your beast, it created the Great Ravine. If we keep using them, it's likely the entire world will be torn apart. We cannot defeat weapons of mass destruction without weapons of our own. The Empire has just one beast. If we steal it like we stole the last 2, then we can end this with traditional warfare. Please, don't follow them into hell. No offense. None taken, my people are generally untrustworthy. Fine, you are tough enough for your words to hold weight. Let us drink to victory. The Tsarina's servants brought wine to the war council. Everyone but Pimet drank. The paralyzing poison in the wine froze the war council in place. I think you overestimate your chances, the servant who brought the wine said, wiping away her makeup to reveal familiar scars. Your towers are less secure than you think. Delta Tower in particular is vulnerable. The war will end soon, yes, but it will end. With my god, Pimet vaporized her with a flaming storm sphere. Next time, make sure everyone is poisoned, jackass. I like you, magic man, Marcia coughed as her servants cast lesser restoration. It seems Delta Tower is our next destination. Yeah, no, that's very obviously a trap. It is, but I believe her when she says they're planning an attack. Why? Evelyn's god wants to kill us with his own hands. That's why she used a paralyzing toxin instead of a deadly one. Because she isn't allowed to kill us. So she's inviting us to a fight where we're going to die. Great. Sounds fun. The party flew Pimet's airship to the Ballista Tower. They began asking around, looking for any soldier who seemed to have been replaced with Evelyn. As they searched, an Empire airship flew towards the tower. On cue, the tower shot it down. Hugo watched as the ship crashed into the river. It's a feint, he said. He misty-stepped into the forest near the tower and cast Pulse Wave, blasting a squad of soldiers out of their cover into the air. They crashed down in front of him. The party and Pietra soldiers charged out of the tower and engaged the Empire soldiers. A metal soldier lunged for Graven. Epsilon cut it in half. I prefer if you didn't kill my only offspring, as aggravating as he is. Hugo cast Detect Thoughts, trying to find Evelyn, but she kept him from probing deeper. Pimet didn't need Detect Thoughts. He saw a Pietra soldier running towards the tower instead of away from it. He cast Cloud of Daggers, cutting her to pieces. When they searched her body after the battle, they found explosives, as well as a note addressed to them, saying reunion at dawn. Nervous, the party waited by the river. As the sun rose, they heard footsteps coming closer. The great rhino marched towards the tower, a dark omen in front of the golden sky. You said the Empire only had the wolf. Clearly, I was wrong. The rhino stopped at the edge of the river. A few soldiers walked out and threw down a rope ladder. Well, today's a good enough day to die, I guess. The party knew it was an invitation. They climbed aboard. A door on the rhino opened. Out walked a man with glowing eyes and golden skin. He'd gotten a haircut and replaced his armor since the last time they'd seen him. I have been waiting for this for a very, very long time, the Emperor said. So, DM note, when you put a person in a bag of holding, they suffocate after 10 minutes. The party put Gil into Chester to kill him because Chester acts similar to a bag of holding. Except, Chester wasn't a bag of holding. He was a walking portal to a specific cave in the Astral Sea. A cave that was open to the rest of the sea. The party actually spent more than 10 minutes inside Chester in the previous part without suffocating, to say nothing of the fact that Aro spent weeks inside Chester without dying. I run my games via Discord, and on the Discord during this campaign, I had a pinned comment saying what the current inventory of Chester was. When they put Gilderoy in, I added him to the inventory. And then, in the middle of the next session, without telling anyone, I removed him. No one noticed this. I sat on this reveal that the party had made a mistake that would doom them for months. And when I got to spring that trap, it felt amazing. Time flows strangely in the Astral Sea. From my perspective, eons have passed. I spent an eternity walking the Astral Sea, looking for a source of power that would allow me to come home. And yet, when I finally returned, my empire was still how I had left it. You all were still alive. Good. It will feel amazing to finally break your fucking necks. Gil slammed his fist down, creating the searing burst of light that washed across the party, taking half of their HP away with it. Hugo cast Absorb Elements to protect himself, but Gil burst out of the light and slashed across his chest. The great beast needs a soul to give it the power it needs to break through the Ballista Tower. Who wants to volunteer? Graven, Epsilon, and Vixen all leaped in to strike. Gil blocked their attacks and knocked all of them away. God damn, Gil got roided, Hugo shouted while watching Gil Nightfall Pimmet. Vixen ran in again, unleashing a flurry of blows. One punch stunned Gil, and the second knocked him back off the edge of the great beast. Gil crashed into the river. Hugo and Pimmet both ran to the edge and threw down fireballs, hitting Gil with everything they had. Good, now that that's sorted out, I claim this beast in the name of Morios. The smoke cleared, revealing Gilderoy was completely fine. He shot into the air like a rocket and unleashed another energy burst. By now, the party were all barely clinging to life. But the Emperor wasn't doing so hot either. Hugo noticed that bits of his skin were beginning to burn away, revealing the light below. He could see that Gil was wincing as he started each turn. The power he had found in the Astral Sea was too much for a mortal body to contain. Gil slammed down onto the rhino and plunged his sword into Hugo's stomach. Even with the chronal shift, the stab couldn't be stopped. Graven lunged in and hit Gil in the back of the head with his sword. It did no damage, but it got Gil's attention. He pulled his sword out of Hugo and struck Graven, bringing him to the brink of death. Epsilon charged in and swung his sword. Gil blocked it with his silver shield covered in spikes. With a reaction, he counterattacked, plunging the shield spikes into Epsilon's stomach. Epsilon fell to 0 hit points. Graven watched as the light left his father's eyes as his soul was ripped away. He screamed and reached for his sword. Pimmet grabbed Graven and teleported away with Dimension Door. Oh well, it seems I'll get my revenge at a later point in time. He grabbed Hugo by the wrist and hoisted him off the ground. There is another reason I had Evelyn invite you here, besides my desire to end you with my own 2 hands. I'd like the Flute of Wind back, please. With his other hand, Gilderoy grabbed Hugo by the shoulder. He twisted, trying to rip Hugo's arm off. But, even as Hugo's bones shattered, the armor wouldn't break, because arcane armor cannot be removed against your will. Hugo misty-stepped out of Gil's grasp. Vixen ran in, punched Gil in the face, stunning him, and grabbed Hugo. He ran to the edge of the rhino and jumped into the river. Gil stared down at the water. He could chase after them, but his health was dangerously low. If he killed them, he'd be dead before he got back to his chambers. Besides, he knew they would come for him soon. Gil walked back into the great beast, where his minions stripped off his armor and placed him in a tube full of purple water to recover. Vixen dragged Hugo onto the shore, where Pimmet and a shell-shocked Graven were waiting. Before they could say anything, the ground began to shake. The great rhino, powered by Epsilon's soul, charged forward, across the river, through the Ballista Tower, stepping on the party's airship as it broke into Pietra. Up above, a fleet of Empire airships flew across the river. The party returned to Lockton via teleportation circle. Marcia readied her troops for battle. They stood at the edge of the palace, weapons drawn, ready for the Empire to arrive. The war ends today. Either we win or we perish in battle. She explained that the Great Mole was buried in Neath, an abandoned underground city. She gave the hammer to a squad of soldiers and ordered them to escort Bullets to the beast. Hold on, Hugo said. He removed the flute from his armor and handed it to Bullets. I need you to get this to Sir Sylvester in Woodwillow. Get the Great Eagle powered and bring it here. If you hurry, we can use it in the mole to pincer the rhino. I thought we said we wouldn't use the Great Beast. Things are coming to a head. We can't... It's time to use the resources we have. One way or another, the war is going to end. If we can make sure we're on the winning side without resorting to too much evil, maybe we'll be able to move on. Bullets teleported to the Great Eagle and gave the flute over to a squad of Woodwillow soldiers and a few of his devils. He teleported back to Lockton and followed the party into the underground city. As they moved through the dark tunnel, Graven noticed something was wrong with the wall. It lacked the dust all the other walls were covered in. He nodded to Hugo, and Hugo blew it up with a thunder wave. A metal Empire soldier burst out of the wall and charged for Graven, hitting him with sharpened metal claws. Vixen noticed that the soldier was wearing a familiar helmet. I am the Underminer! Your graves are already dug. That identity is copyrighted, you son of a bitch! Vixen ran in and punched the Underminer. The Underminer threw his own punch. When the punches collided, Vixen's came up short. He was knocked back, his arm broken by the blow. The strong will not bow to the weak! The party threw everything they could at the giant man. The Pietro soldiers charged in and struck him with their axes. The Underminer's chest popped open, revealing a flamethrower, which he used to incinerate them. Hugo hit the Underminer with a mind spike, and he started to glitch out. Standing here, I realize you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Bullets placed a hand on Vixen's shoulder and healed his injured arm. Thanks? Normally I would charge for this, but my son would be disappointed if I let his friend die. Vixen ran back in and grabbed a hold of the Underminer's gloves. He was kicked away, but managed to pull them off. While Graven dodged through the Underminer's punches, Vixen dug into a wall. He burst out, striking his foe in the side of the head hard enough to break his neck. The large soldier fell over. I am standing here, therefore I am the better one! Vixen took off the dread helm. Below, he saw the face of General Strongarm. It was rotten and gray, and pieces had been replaced with steel, but the face was unrecognizable. This is disturbing. Raising the dead to replace slain soldiers and using your name as they do so? Yeah, I mean, at least I don't have to feel bad about killing him again, because I've already gone over that. We can discuss Machina Orum's experiments later. As a reminder, the clock is ticking. He picked up the hammer a dead soldier had been carrying. At the end of the long tunnel, the party found the Great Mole. Bullets went inside to power it on as the party rushed back to the surface. When they exited, Lockton was on fire. An armada of Empire airships flew above, dropping their firebombs. Then, the wind picked up. The Great Eagle flew over the mountains and perched atop the Tsarina's palace. The party rushed into the palace to join up with the troops from Woodwillow. When they walked inside, they found Cannonball Van Nessus sitting atop the throne. Marcia Underhill lay dead at her feet. To her side stood Silence, the Empire cyborg they fought in Nirvana, and a squad of her devil enforcers. Rejoice! The war is over. Hold on, there's a bad guy standing next to you. I don't think you understand me. Devils, kill them. The devils charged for the party. Silence flew in and knocked out Vixen. Do you like my new pet? Machina Orum built him just for me. One of his new cyborg zombies. A present for all the help I've given. We had a deal. Aros made me agree to give aid and a vote. I gave aid, I gave my vote. I never promised I would continue giving aid until the war was over. Aros was always a bit of a fool when it came to making deals. Silence struck Graven down with his sword. Chester, ever the loyal Box, ran in and ate the unconscious bodies to keep them from being hurt further. Vixen and Graven landed in the honey cave. The body of Gil was gone, as was something else they had left there. Hugo pulse waved away the devils, then ran in, punching Cannonball with a booming blade-enhanced strike with his thunder gauntlets. Cannonball didn't flinch. Go ahead, kill me. It won't matter in a minute. Pima threw a fireball, altered by wild magic to turn into cold damage. The explosion killed Cannonball, but Silence and half of the devils stayed standing. As Pima cast this spell, he caused a wild magic surge. I had him roll on the table, he rolled a 91, which does something I will explain in a minute. The fact that he rolled a 91 was excellent, by the way, because it meant that I could take the kid gloves off. Hugo hit Silence with the mind spike. The devil clutched his head in pain. Even when it's over, you need to let people. A devil tapped him on the shoulder, asking if he was okay. Silence chopped the devil's head off. He pointed his sword at Hugo. You need to run. Now. I've got this. Let me handle the devil stuff. Hugo stared at Silence. Aros? I told you to leave. Hugo dove into Chester so he could heal Vixen and Graven. The devils surrounded Pimmet. Now, I know this is a bit cliche, but go to hell. He blew himself up with a fireball, killing himself and the devils in the process. The explosion knocked his body into the air. It landed on Chester, who ran out of the palace as fast as it could. As it ran, the Great Rhino arrived at Lockton. The Great Mole burst from the ground as the Great Wolf and the Great Ape climbed across the mountains. The treasure chest ran as the ape and the rhino struck each other, tearing a rip through dimensions, a massive rift leading to the Nine Hells. An army of devils marched out of the rift, led by Cannonball Van Nessus and her loyal right hand. Terry! All seemed lost. But there was a small glimmer of hope. As he lay lying on Chester, Pimmet's body began to glow. He gasped as his wild magic returned him to the plane of the living, thanks to a lucky roll on the wild magic surge table. Now, technically, he should have been reincarnated as a different race, but you know what? I don't feel like making a new character model, so I guess he reincarnated as a halfling, which happens like 15% of the time. It's fine. Anyway, yeah, things were going pretty bad for the party.